Dave, good morning. It's Spadoni, it's Shasky. And yeah, we're just talking about Bryce Eldridge in the last 15 games, just batting 200. What have you seen from the league adjusting back to Bryce as he adjusted a little bit more? And what adjustments does he need to make now?
Well, I mean, I think definitely he's being pitched inside more. If you're asking me what looks a little different, I think teams are jamming him inside, and he is having a little harder time laying off those inside pitches. He's chasing in a little bit, and when he makes contact in, it's not real loud, hard contact. So I think that's something that he is going to have to, that will probably be a challenge for him for the rest of his career, just the way his body moves and the way he's built. I think that inside pitch is going to be, that will be an issue for him. And he's going to have to learn how to pick some spots. I think this is where, and I heard you guys talking about the at-bat where the bases were loaded and he didn't get a ball in play. And like a lot of that is just game repetition for a guy his age. Like it just doesn't compare when you're on the high school circuit, when you're in A-ball. Like the level of competition here in those game scenarios is just so different here. He needs more reps at that. He needs more experience into how teams are trying to attack him, because he is going to have to pick his spots maybe and cheat a little bit on that inside pitch every once in a while and just do enough damage there where it's not going to be a constant thing. Mostly with Bryce, this is all about learning, and there will be ups and downs, and it's not going to be, no hitter in history has had a smooth ride to superstardom where there's just never a bump in the road. This guy's got elite ability, but it does take a lot of reps against this level of play to polish up that game.
Dave, I'm not going to let this slide. Are you wearing the original last call, final hat right now?
I am.
That's a cool lid.
Swag.
Cool,
I like
glasses.
that. Yeah. I didn't know you were a Cow Hollow Marina guy. I didn't know that we could catch you, near the bus stop or a final. That's just, I didn't have that in your repertoire. I'm surprised.
I'm a city guy. I live just above the Presidio.
What are you trying to say about him?
I miss it's funny because I love our neighborhood, but I remember so fondly like living in the Presidio when my girls were young. We lived there for like probably 5 years, and I try to go down, ride my bike through there all the time. Like I love the Presidio.
I love that. All right. Well, look, Dave, I'm looking at this team right now, and look, the obvious woes are there regarding the pitching, and Trevor McDonald got blasted yesterday. But just overall, like, we got the draft coming up. We've got the trade deadline, looming right now. And I'm seeing everybody link this guy and that guy, and I'm having a hard time with it. In one aspect, like, I know that I want to get younger and I want to get more athletic, and we need pitching and we need catching. We need all these things. But I also don't want to give up a player that I think can help the big league club, not just this year, but next year and the year after. How are they balancing the approach at the deadline here with the team that they have? And what are they looking for in both the draft and in the deadline? Because you've said this over and over. It's not just about having the best minor league team. It's about how does that affect your big league club? And you're 15 games over at the big league level. So how should they be approaching both of these big deadlines?
Yeah, I really believe that firmly. Like, everything should be in service of making your big league team better. And that's where I think, like, specifically Arise, maybe one guy you're talking about there, Arise would, to me, he's really tricky because he's obviously been a great player for the Giants. He's, in his own words, I'm having my best year ever. Like, and he's been an all-star 4 times. Like, he's been everything the Giants could have hoped and probably more. Here's the issue when you're trying to sort of project ahead for the big league team. Like, most of the Giants' best prospects are overlapping with each other and overlapping with Luis Arise. Like, the by far the highest concentration of talent in the Giants organization are those shortstop, second base, third base types. Good problem to have. Don't worry about it. That's not something to stress about, but it is something to think about if Arise wants a 3-4 year free agent contract. That's where, okay, we can sign him to that contract, or we can trust our player development and know that we're going to have players in that spot and direct and that's where it's just complicated with Arise specifically. Here's what the approach should be for the Giants, or I mean, this is all my opinion, but if you're approaching the draft shouldn't be anything other than let's get as many good players as we can get. Like, the Giants need more talent, period. So get as many talented players as you can. They are lacking pitching on all levels. Like, they need more arms at the big league level. They need more arms at the minor league level. But you can't force it in the draft. Like, you can't. Like, you might be able to force it a little bit as the draft goes on, like the lower rounds of the draft. The guy last night is an absolutely perfect example. Well, on both sides, the Giants drafted Trevor McDonald in the 11th round. That's a winning draft pick. But they drafted Spencer Miles in the 5th round, who started for the Blue Jays and just has monstrous stuff and ability. And that's the kind of guy you can target in a draft as you go along. Top picks, you got to just be brutal about who's the best player. We got to take that player, in my opinion.
So let me
Trades are a little. Yeah, go ahead.
No, like, okay, some of the names we know, Rock at UCLA, the shortstop, they've got a ton of shortstops, and I don't even know if he's going to fall to them. He's probably going to be one or two. I mean, would you take the pitcher if Jackson Flores sitting there, kid from Santa Barbara, local boy?
I mean, I don't pretend to be a big expert on this. The local kid he's very talented. By consensus, he's the most talented pitcher in the draft. I guess if you're looking for like roadblocks for Jackson Flora, and this is just nitpicking, but right-handed pitchers at the top of the draft, it's not a great track record. Like, you know, and I think that's because the bar is really high to be elite if you're a right-handed pitcher. And so the elite traits that this guy has are mostly he looks the part, he's 6'5", he played shortstop for Pleasanton or whatever high school he went to. He's a real athlete. He throws 100. He commands the ball. Like, all those are great things. But his strikeout rate, if you compare his strikeout rate in college to the strikeout rate of pitchers who've dominated in the big leagues coming out of college high in the draft, it does not compare favorably. Like, he has not struck out as many hitters as you'd like to see with that kind of stuff. That's my amateur, hour analysis of what's the negative on him. And, you're right about the shortstops. Like, probably 3 of the 4 top players on everybody's board are shortstops or close to it. Take the guy. If that's the guy you think is the best player, you take it and figure it out.
So I'm looking at the catching position, and we know how important it is. And they made the Patrick Bailey trade during the season. I like Susac. He's hurt right now. It's been a couple stints where it feels like he's been a little injured. How big of a need is catcher for this team?
Yeah, probably to be determined. I mean, I think they have more depth right now than they had. I think they feel, some of it depends on, do you think Jesus Rodriguez can be a catcher part-time, at least in the major league level? And that's a fair question that I don't have the answer for, and they probably don't. But you give him a little more time to keep working at it. The guy's a worker. Can Kavanaugh, Susac, and Rodriguez at the top tier be enough for the major league team? I don't know. I think the number one thing you have to answer is, do we have a guy who can defensively do what Bailey did? And, Patrick Bailey isn't here anymore for a lot of reasons. But obviously the pitchers liked pitching to him, and he could handle a staff. And I do believe that Daniel Susac can do that. I think the pitchers that I talked to really like throwing to him. But Daniel's got to get stronger and more physical. He does. And, part of that is just to be able to withstand the wear and tear of that position. And the back issue is a little bit of a red flag. Like, the body, he was pushed hard, and the body didn't respond that well. So I think that's a huge task for him going forward. I wouldn't say the Giants are feeling like, oh, we're stuffed at catcher, we don't need any catching talent. I wouldn't say that.
Talking with Dave Flemming here on the Morning Roast Giants broadcaster, our 95 cent the game. Giants insider, courtesy of the River Islands guest line. Can I pivot real quick, Dave, to a different sport that we're not going to be talking about until another 4 years? That's soccer. As the U.S. lost to Belgium 4-1. I don't know if you caught any of it, if you saw the highlights or whatever. Our entire show yesterday, by the way, 4 hours on soccer. It was actually incredible. Our full phone lines the entire day. It was incredible. Just your thoughts overall on where soccer is at in America, and if we could ever get to that top 16, top 10 upper echelon, even in our lifetimes, because it feels like they're just stuck on the round of 16 and they're never going to break through to that top 8.
Well, I mean, I don't think that's true. I think the U.S. can compete at a World Cup level just based on pure resources and channeling, the power of the U.S. sports industry behind the team. And they got a good coach this year, and they went farther than they ever have, played better than they ever have. So I don't think that part of it is true. Will soccer ever be a massive deal here? I mean, I don't think it will be, but for two reasons. Number one, because our best athletes are still, for the foreseeable future, now 100 years from now, who knows? But in the short term, our best athletes are still getting funneled towards other sports. They are. Whereas in all these other countries, the best athletes get funneled towards soccer. And that's how you build like a dominant national program. But the other thing is that Americans in general, just stereotyping, part of the reason why this World Cup has just been a smashing success and so fun to watch, we like to watch the best. Like, nobody here wants to watch the UFL or the XFL or, these
Corn
other
Ferry.
rinky-dink. Yeah, right. Like, nobody wants to watch that. We want to watch the best players compete at the highest level. And soccer in America just is not close to that and won't be anytime soon. And so I just don't think that, that is going to capture the heart. Now, will people maybe follow the Champions League, Premier League a little more closely? Probably. But I think the World Cup is a unique event, and it's here. That's created part of the excitement for this. And, by the way, we should host this thing pretty regularly. Like, this has been an unbelievably successful event. But so that's my opinion about soccer, but don't let that. I mean, I have enjoyed every minute of this. It's been super fun to watch.
What'd you think of the overturned red card, the suspension?
Well, I mean, here's what I think. The performance the U.S. threw out there the other night was related to that. It is not a coincidence when your focus is not on what it needs to be. And there is no doubt in my mind that the focus of that team was not where it needed to be. And I don't think there's any doubt that the distraction of that issue and whether it was a just outcome or not is debatable. But ultimately, I think it was. I don't think it was like my little meager understanding of the rules. Like, I don't think he should have been given a red card and not allowed to play a game afterwards. It didn't meet that standard. But it became such a massive issue that I have no doubt in my mind that it took away focus from the task at hand. And that was it certainly didn't look to me like it was a focused team out there where they had looked really good for most of the tournament. So whatever side you come down on how it was handled and whatever, it definitely contributed to a poor performance.
Dave, I want to rat-a-tat-tat quickly a couple names on the Giants, and then I want to tell you a story because I want your opinion on it of someone I met last week, okay? First, okay. Victor Barracuda. I like him.
Yeah, rat-a-tat-tat quick. He's got real tools. He's got power. He's got bat speed. He's got a throwing arm. The flip side is if you just go by which I think is often a good way to do it, like crowdsourcing. He's never been on the radar of anybody else. Like, there aren't other teams who have clamored to grab Victor. That, should give you pause. It should. It's not to say in this sport that players don't pop up as surprises and get better and improve. He's got actual major league tools. He really, really does. But, everybody should just pump the brakes a little bit because this guy's been around for a long time without being somebody that's been flagged by all the other people who watch young players. So, it's prove-it mode for him. Early signs, very encouraging.
Do we have the two best defensive third basemen in the game? Because Casey Schmidt made some plays over the weekend. I mean, I've been watching ball my whole life. That play down the line where he tagged the bag and then threw across, but it's one of the best plays I've ever seen in a Giants uniform. And I thought Chapman in New York a couple years ago was one of the best plays I've ever seen from a third baseman.
I agree on both of those. Those are two of my favorite plays I've ever seen. And I called it this weekend like that's one of the greatest plays I've ever seen. And the next day I came to the ballpark and I went around to a lot of Giants coaches and people. I'm like, did I make an idiot of myself in saying that? Like, did I just get into full homer mode and just overreact? And to a person, everybody was like, heck no. Like all those guys were like, I've never seen anybody make a play like that. So that was, I guess just personally, that was a little validating that I wasn't a clown show up in the booth. But yeah, I think they might have the two best defensive third basemen in the whole sport. I was a little bugged out, and this is the last one. I got a story to tell, but I didn't think we deserved two All-Stars. Now, that's just my opinion based on the year. I know they add a lot of guys, whatever. We got one, we got second one. I understand Logan Webb has had a great month. I do feel like Jung-Hoo Lee had a really good argument to be an all-star, and I think Casey had a really good argument to be an all-star. I get why they went with Logan. I would have waited with Logan because one of these pitchers would have bowed out and you would have needed substitutions and whatever. Just in terms of the all-star, the amount of guys that were selected and who got selected, do you think it was fair? Yeah, I do. And I think Logan just deserves it because he's been, for 6 years, one of the best pitchers in the game. And so I think the All-Star game should be about short-term performance, like what have you done this year? Reward the guys who are having great years, but it also should be about the stars of the game. And this guy's one of the best starting pitchers in the game, and he deserves to be an All-Star in most circumstances in the prime of his career, in my opinion, for body of work, for everything he's done for all this time. So I think Logan should be very proud about being on that team again, and so I think it worked out okay. All right, so last Wednesday I went up to Northwood. I got a spot up in the Russian River in Monterey. Northwood's the Alistair McKenzie course up there. I don't know if you've ever played it, but my little guy and I will go to the little driving range. They got a little mat. It's a couple of mats with a net. I mean, it's old school, and we go down to hit balls, and all of a sudden I'm looking at this golf bag, and I'm like, that's the Bryson DeChambeau logo. There's no way he's up here. No, not a chance. And then out of nowhere comes walking over to the driving range, and he goes, can I hit next to the little guy? My son's 2.5. He's hitting golf balls. I go, hell yeah, you can hit next to him. And so Bryson DeChambeau is hitting golf balls next to my son, and my son's hitting golf balls, and he's watching them, and they're having a good time. And I didn't want to be a weirdo and pull out the phone and just start videoing because I thought it was weird, like this grown man videoing his son with the guy. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Bryson could not have been nicer. Okay, weird. He's a little weird. He's quirky. Could not have been nicer. People were coming up to him. He was taking photos. Eventually, another guy goes, hey, can I take a photo? He goes, well, let me take one with the kid before I take one with you. And my son and him got a photo. It was really special. He could not have been nicer, Bryson DeChambeau. Can you give me, have you had any interactions with him? Any one-on-ones? I'm just curious. Sure. Yeah, I've talked to him a bunch of times. It's funny because as soon as you said Northwoods, I knew you were saying Bryson. How'd you know? A couple people. I just heard he had been up there. So a couple people told me, hey, guess who popped up there last week? So that's fun. I never heard exactly why he was up there. Maybe he was going to the Grove. I don't know, but I have talked to Bryson, not like deep conversations. He's very pleasant to talk to. He's had such a strange career. But when you do I think sometimes he's full of BS? I think sometimes he is. Like, I talk to him sometimes, I'm like, I'm not that smart, but I don't know about all that. Like, I just think he overthinks a lot of stuff. But he is undoubtedly good for the sport of golf. Like, undoubtedly, he is a magnetic. People like being around him. The YouTube stuff is like wildly popular. And so, like, I do root for him to do well because it's really, really good for the sport when he does well.
There's something I call, like, I think people don't understand how incredible the pros are till you get up and close and you're next to them. And I know you and we have access to this that other people don't. When an NBA player shows up to the YMCA, all right, or, it doesn't even have to be a good one. I mean, watching a pro golfer hit golf balls is just like, wow. I mean, it just sounds and looks so different. Seeing a Major League Baseball player, take batting practice up close and personal. I don't know. I just think the average fan, I don't think understands until they get right next to him.
I think that's true. I also think that there are a lot of people out there who can mimic in short bursts what that looks and sounds like. And the key for these guys who really make it big is they just do it day after day. Yeah. And it never ends. Yeah. And they never fail to show up. And it's like a mental thing to me. Like the confidence to know I'm this good, I can hang. And to tie it all back to your Bryce Eldridge thing, like Bryce is obviously like supremely gifted at what he's doing. And when he gets that he's already on his way, but when he really gets that feeling of like situationally, he just knows and is confident. The sky's the limit for that guy. And he's headed that way. But that's, for so many of these young athletes, that's the final piece. Just it's almost like a Zen peace of mind to know that no matter how crazy this gets out there, no matter how good the players I'm playing against are, I fit, I belong, I'm part of this, I'm good enough to do this. And he's going to be that guy too.